I thought I'd tell you a little about what I like to write. And I like to immerse myself in my topics. I just like to dive right in and become a sort of a human guinea pig. And I see my life as a series of experiments. So I worked for Esquire magazine. A couple of years ago, I wrote an article called My Outsourced Life, where I hired a team of people in Bangalore, India, to live my life for me. So they answered my emails, they answered my phone, they argued with my wife for me, and they read my son bedtime stories. It was the best month of my life, because I just sat back and I read books and watched movies. It was a wonderful experience. More recently, I wrote an article for Esquire called about radical honesty. And this is a movement where this is started by a psychologist in Virginia who says that you should never, ever lie, except maybe during poker and golf. This is only exceptions. And more than that, whatever's on your brain should come out of your mouth. So I decided I would try this for a month. This was the worst month of my life. I do not recommend this at all. To give you a sense of the experience, the article was called, I Think You're Fat. So that was hard. My most recent book was, my previous book was called The Know-It-All, and it was about the year I spent reading the Encyclopedia Britannica from A to Z in my quest to learn everything in the world. Or more precisely, from Aak, which is a type of East Asian music, all the way to Ziviech, which is, well, I don't want to ruin the ending. It's a very exciting twist ending, like a O. Henry novel. So I won't ruin it. But I love that one because that was an experiment about how much information one human brain could absorb. Although listening to Kevin Kelly, you don't have to remember anything. You can just Google it. So I wasted some time there. But I love those experiments, but I think that the most profound and life-changing experiment that I've done is my most recent experiment, where I spent a year trying to follow all of the rules of the Bible, the year of living biblically. And I undertook this for two reasons. The first was that I grew up with no religion at all. As I say in my book, I'm Jewish in the same way the Olive Garden is Italian. So, not very. But I've become increasingly interested in religion. I do think it's the defining issue of our time, or one of the main ones. And I have a son. I want to know what to teach him. So I decided to dive in head first and try to live the Bible. The second reason I undertook this is because I'm concerned about the rise of fundamentalism, religious fundamentalism, and people who say they take the Bible literally, which is, according to some polls, as high as 45 or 50% of America. So I decided, well, what if you really did take the Bible literally? I decided to take it to its logical conclusion and take everything in the Bible literally without picking and choosing. The first thing I did was I got a stack of Bibles. I had Christian Bibles, I had Jewish Bibles. A friend of mine sent me something called a hip-hop Bible, where the 23rd Psalm is rendered as, the Lord is all that, as opposed to what I knew it as, the Lord is my shepherd. Then I went down and I read several versions, and I wrote down every single law that I could find. And this was a very long list, over 700 rules. And they ranged from the famous ones that I had heard of, the Ten Commandments, love your neighbor, be fruitful and multiply. So I wanted to follow those. And actually, I take my projects very seriously because I had twins during my year. So I definitely take my projects seriously. But I also wanted to follow the hundreds of arcane and obscure laws that are in the Bible. There's the law in Leviticus, you cannot shave the corners of your beard. I didn't know where my corners were, so I decided to let the whole thing grow, and this is what I looked like by the end. As you can imagine, I spent a lot of time at airport security. My wife wouldn't kiss me for the last 2 months. So certainly a challenge there. The Bible says you cannot wear clothes made of mixed fibers. So I thought, sounds strange, but I'll try it. You only know if you try it. So I got rid of all my poly cotton t-shirts. The Bible says that if two men are in a fight and the wife of one of those men grabs the testicles of the other man, then her hand shall be cut off. So I wanted to follow that rule. That one I followed by default, by not getting in a fight with a man whose wife was standing nearby, looking like she had a strong grip. So, there's another shot of my beard. I will say it was an amazing year because it really was life-changing and incredibly challenging. And there were two types of laws that were particularly challenging. The first was avoiding the little sins that we all commit every day. I could spend a year not killing, but spending a year not gossiping, not coveting, not lying. I live in New York, and I work as a journalist. So this was 75, 80% of my day I had to do it. But it was really interesting because I was able to make some progress because I couldn't believe how much my behavior changed my thoughts. This was one of the huge lessons of the year, is that I almost pretended to be a better person, and I became a little bit of a better person. So it's that I had always thought, you change your mind and you change your behavior, but it's often the other way around. You change your behavior and you change your mind. So, if you want to become more compassionate, you visit sick people in the hospital and you will become more compassionate. You donate money to a cause and you become emotionally involved in that cause. So it really was cognitive psychology, cognitive dissonance that I was experiencing. The Bible actually talks about cognitive psychology, very primitive cognitive psychology. In the Proverbs it says that if you smile, you will become happier, which, as we know, is actually true. The second type of rule that was difficult to obey was the rules that'll get you into little trouble in 21st century America. Perhaps the clearest example of this is stoning adulterers. But it's a big part of the Bible, so I figured I had to address it. So I was able to stone one adulterer. It happened. I was in the park, and I was dressed in my biblical clothing, so sandals and sort of a white robe. And, because again, the outer affects the inner. I wanted to see how dressing biblically affected my mind. And this man came up to me, and he said, "Why are you dressed like that?" And I explained my project. And he said, "Well, I'm an adulterer. Are you going to stone me?" And I said, "Well, that would be great." And I took out a handful of stones from my pocket that I've been carrying around for weeks, hoping for just this interaction. And, they were pebbles. But he grabbed them out of my hand. He was actually an elderly man, mid-70s, just so you know. But he's still an adulterer and still quite angry. He grabbed them out of my hand and threw them at my face. And I felt that I could retaliate and throw one back at him. So that was my experience stoning. And it did allow me to talk about, in a more serious way, these big issues like how can the Bible be so barbaric in some places and yet so incredibly wise in others? How should we view the Bible? Should we view it, as original intent, like a sort of a Scalia version of the Bible? How is the Bible written? And actually, since this is a tech crowd, I talk in the book about how the Bible actually reminds me of the Wikipedia because it has all of these authors and editors over hundreds of years, and it's sort of evolved. It's not a book that was written and came down from on high. So I thought I would end by telling you just a couple of the takeaway, the bigger lessons that I learned from my year. The first is, thou shalt not take the Bible literally. This became very, very clear early on. Because if you do, then you end up acting like a crazy person and stoning adulterers. Or here's another example of